What's up, everybody? I am back. Part 3, the final part of today's Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Very excited to get off to this start, even though I have one of the top 5 worst sinus headaches that I've probably ever had. I can actually feel it in my face, as weird as that sounds. But it is terrible. I've had this for probably 2 weeks. It just doesn't seem to want to go away. I'm blowing my nose, I'm coughing, it won't go away. And if I sound miserable, I'm not. I'm just frustrated that this won't go away. But I am excited to bring back the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Part 3 of today's show, to continue Part 1 and Part 2. If you had not tuned in to Part 1 or Part 2 yet, I talked about the Buffalo Bills extensively, the cap situation. What is going on with the Buffalo Bills? What's the real nitty-gritty situation of their salary cap? I also talked about the Stephon Gilmore. Should he stay or should he go? Tune in, check those out. I really enjoyed talking about those topics. As always, I enjoy talking about the Buffalo Bills. So, that being said, we're going to move on to another sport, mixed martial arts. As everyone knows, I'm a huge mixed martial arts fan, huge wrestling fan, USA Wrestling in particular. So, 2 guys will be headlining UFC UFC 211 with the heavyweight title on the line. Cleveland's own Stipe Miocic will head to Dallas, Texas to take on a man that he has faced once before, a man that he lost to once before, Junior Dos Santos, a few years back, the former UFC heavyweight champion. It was a fight that was a very close fight. It was a fight that was an all-out war between 2 of the hardest-hitting heavyweights in UFC history. I'm very excited for this fight. It caught me off guard a little bit. I anticipated that, maybe the UFC would put together Miocic versus Verdum again, or maybe they would put together Miocic versus Cain Velasquez. That's the matchup that I really wanted, but Cain cannot stay healthy. He just can't stay healthy. It's a problem that has been a part of his career for the last few years, unfortunately, and because of that, Junior Dos Santos gets this shot to become the heavyweight champion once again. And this pairing met previously in December of 2014 exactly. It was on UFC on Fox, and Dos Santos won by unanimous decision in what was a all-out brawl and a very close fight. Now, this fight is the only fight that has been listed on the card. This would be the 4th UFC that's been hosted in Dallas, following UFC 185, UFC 171, and UFC 103. So, that is that. I'm very excited. That's the preview of what's led up to this event. Now, my prediction on the fight, I think that this is a very interesting matchup. Obviously, they faced once before. It was a close fight. But I think Stipe Miocic has grown leaps and bounds since then, winning the heavyweight title since that fight, where Junior Dos Santos has taken quite a lot of damage over the course of his career between the fight with even Mark Hunt, even fights that Junior Dos Santos has won. He has taken loads of damage in those fights. He's only lost 4 fights. He was knocked out by Alistair Overeem. He was knocked out by Cain Velasquez. He lost a decision to Cain Velasquez in what was a drubbing of a fight. It was a very hard fight to watch. It was one of those fights that probably should have been stopped somewhere in between the 2nd and 3rd round, but it was not. And Junior Dos Santos was allowed to continue, and he really should not have been. That took probably at least a couple years off of Junior Dos Santos' career, fighting that fight in the fashion that he did. Another fight that I thought we would see would be Junior Dos Santos versus Fabricio Verdum, but I think Fabricio Verdum is a little bit on the outs with the UFC right now due to things that he's made, comments that he's made about Reebok. That seems to be continuing to be a problem for a lot of UFC fighters. And when fighters speak up and talk about it, it seems as if the UFC puts them on ice and tucks them away. You try to fight the UFC, you're going to lose every single time. Tito Ortiz learned that the hard way. Rory McDonald learned that the hard way. Conor McGregor could very well learn that the hard way. But this fight in particular, it was a bit of a shock to me, being that in his last 4 fights, Junior Dos Santos is 2-2, where Stipe Miocic has virtually ran through everybody that he has fought besides Stefan Struve, besides Junior Dos Santos. So it's a great fight for Junior Dos Santos. It's a great chance for him to take on Stipe Miocic. It's a great opportunity for the champion and Stipe Miocic to redeem himself, give himself a second chance, give himself another shot at putting out a better showing, avenging a loss that he felt that he should not have lost that first fight. And I watched that first fight. It was on national television, as I said earlier, on UFC on Fox, and it was one that was a very close back-and-forth battle where both guys put themselves through the ringer. Typically, that will be the case when you have 2 guys that weigh between 230, 265 pounds throwing leather at each other. One guy is either going to get knocked out early, or it's going to be a drag-em-out brawl where one guy leaves barely walking. Both guys could very well leave barely walking. I'm going to go with Stipe Miocic, though, even though Junior Dos Santos has great boxing, great power in his hands. Stipe Miocic really seems to have put it all together in terms of avoiding stand-up exchanges while initiating stand-up exchanges. Not really taking too many hits. I think he learned that from the Stefan Struve fight, which was one that I posted on my Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page. If you have not liked that page, check it out. A lot of good stuff on there. So I'm going to go with Stipe Miocic. I think he wants to prove that he can become the most successful UFC heavyweight champion of all time, and I think that he can accomplish that against Junior Dos Santos. At this point in Junior's career, I just don't know if he has what it takes in him to continue to just have these wars of fights. I know he's a flat-out badass, but you can only do that so many times before it catches up to you. So my take on the actual UFC heavyweight division, as I said, Fabricio Verdum is on ice right now. Cain Velasquez just can't seem to get healthy. A guy that Dana White is highly touting is Francis Ngannou. I think he's shown greatness inside the octagon, but I would be very leery of putting him in the top 5 of the division just yet, putting him up against the top 5 in the division. Ben Rothwell is a guy that's still kicking out there. Alistair Overeem is still out there. The division, though, is very shallow. I feel like we're talking about two of the same, not two of the same, we're talking about 5 of the same people over the last, 3-4 years. The Dos Santos, the Velasquez, the Miocic, those guys of the world. I feel like the UFC needs to bring back an Ultimate Fighter heavyweight season where they possibly give guys shots that were once in the UFC, or just make it an all-out new heavyweight season where you have new heavyweights. They did that in years past with Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans. It was one of the best seasons yet. I feel like if you were to do that with the eventual winner of the Cormier Rumble fight, and you put John Jones on that coaching segment as well, where it's either DC versus Jones and coaching against each other for the Ultimate Fighter, or you do Rumble versus Jones if Rumble beats DC at UFC 210 in Buffalo. Maybe they'll do that. I really think they should. I think that this has been a long time coming. Even if they wanted to do 2 divisions in one season, make one of those divisions the heavyweight division, because the guys that are available to the UFC's top 10, it's very limited. There's even talk that when Brock Lesnar comes back from his drug suspension, and when Frank Mir comes back from his drug suspension, they will finally end the trilogy with the trilogy bout for Lesnar versus Mir. The last time they fought, it was like 2009, 2010 at UFC 100. I would watch it, of course. It would be a co-main event, maybe the third fight, the fight before the co-main event on a giant card during the summer. But the fact that they're that desperate to bring back a matchup that's 7 years old just shows that the division hasn't really evolved like you would hope that it would. There's a few Russian guys out there that are looking to make an impact in the UFC, and I say a few Russian guys because I cannot pronounce their names whatsoever. But Francis Ngannou, Jared Cannonier is a light heavyweight. I'm getting him mixed up with Derek Lewis. Derek Black Beast Lewis. He's fighting Travis Brown. Travis Brown is a guy that, if it was up to me, he wouldn't even be in the UFC. He has looked downright terrible in his last, 3 or 4 fights. He would not be in the UFC if it was up to me. He's not a top UFC heavyweight. And at one point he showed that he could be, but he's not anymore. He would not be in the UFC. Whether he wins this fight against Derek Lewis or not, I wouldn't have even given him this opportunity because he has just looked so bad on the biggest stage. It makes the UFC look bad as they continue to try to trot him out there time and time again. Andrei Arlovsky is a guy that just lost to Francis Ngannou. I don't see him coming back. I see him maybe going to another organization if he wants to continue to fight. That could be a possibility, but I would err on the side of caution and not come back if I was Andrei Arlovsky. So that is my take on Stipe Miocic versus Junior Dos Santos. A heavyweight title belt will be on the line, defended by Stipe Miocic going up against Junior Dos Santos. Very interesting stuff. It's a great rematch. It caught me by surprise, but really, as I've alluded to, there's really no matchup for him that really makes much sense. If you put Ngannou in there against Miocic, that's a huge rush on the part of the UFC, and I wouldn't do that just yet. I wouldn't put him up against Cain Velasquez just yet. That has been talked about as well, but the heavyweight division is just so shallow. If the UFC really wanted to put out a good season of The Ultimate Fighter, we got Garbrandt and Dillashaw, but after that, I think it would be very, very good if the UFC just did a straight, all-out heavyweight season with John Jones and Daniel Cormier or John Jones and Anthony Johnson. That's my take on the main event that will be at UFC 211, barring injury. Hopefully the guys can stay healthy. That is my take on the UFC's current state of the heavyweight division. That was the Thomas Take. I'm Ryan Thomas. Thank you for joining me for Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 of today's podcast, February 9th, 2017. This year is going by fast. I got a lot of cool announcements coming up for the history of the show moving forward. So stay tuned.